Now that we've got our audio recorded, albeit a short section for our example, but now that we have got it recorded, what I'm going to do in this tutorial, and in fact I'll follow up in the next one as well, is go about optimizing our audio, because as we know, whilst I was recording it in the conservatory, there was quite a bit of background noise. Although, to be fair, the microphone doesn't seem to have picked up too much, but all the same, I do want to clean up the file. So I'll start off here using Audition, and in the following tutorial we'll continue cleaning up the file and optimizing it, but we'll use Wavelab. Anyway, for the moment, now that we are here within Audition, I think my first step is to correct any DC misalignment problems. You can sometimes get this, probably more so when you are using a laptop. In fact, you can see this quite clearly. If I zoom in onto this waveform, you can see that horizontal red line running across there. Well, that's supposed to be the exact silent point. But now that I am zoomed in, we can see quite clearly that the audio is slightly moved away from there. There is a DC offset. Well, luckily, within Audition, there is a preset that can sort this out for us very quickly. All we need to do is come up to Favorites, and there it is, Repair DC Offset. Now, even though I've zoomed right back out again, just keep your eye on the horizontal green line. That's the background noise level for our audio file, and it's slightly above the red line. Well, really, these have to match. And in actual fact, if I just zoom in again, you'll see this more clearly. Just keep your eye on the difference between the green line and the red line, and then now if I come up to Favorites once more, and then down to Repair DC Offset, well, there you go. They are now realigned. I'll just do a quick save. I suppose next what I generally do is optimize the file in terms of its volume. Even though we'd set the microphone up to be at its most sensitive, we can see it's still not being recorded all that loud. So what I can do is I can normalize this, and again, within Audition, we have a preset. If I come up to Favorites again, and there you'll see, we have a couple of normalized presets. One to normalize to -0.1 dB, so the loudest peak, whether that's a transient or some audio that lasts a little bit longer than a simple spike. Well, by normalizing, as you know, this will increase the overall volume level, so that that loudest peak will be set at, in this case, -0.1 dB. Just under optimum level. Okay, good. As a consequence of doing this, of course, we not only raise the narration by a comparable ratio, we also increase the background noise. Therefore, let me just play it through and we'll have a listen to see how bad it is. Although, to be fair, I am going to correct this in a moment. Anyway, let's have a quick listen. It hadn't snowed in December for decades. The last time was before the 2017 English Civil War. Tonight, however, as light faded fast. Okay, now if you'd got headphones on, or you were listening to this tutorial with very good speakers, I think you would have heard that background noise quite clearly. Well, if we left it there, that would be the sign of an amateur podcast, so we need to remove it. I think pretty much these days, any audio editor program that you use will incorporate some sort of noise reduction function. And what we need to do first of all is train the software into understanding what is the actual background noise. Well, because I've got quite a significant length of background noise at the end of this file, then I can use this as a snapshot, or a profile, call it what you will, that instructs Audition that this is noise. And if you work your way through all the file, looking for this sonic fingerprint, then please remove it for us. And effectively that's what it will do. It will remove that background noise right throughout the file. I'll show you what I mean. And in fact, if I just loop around this end section so that you can hear what Audition is about to hear, to remove any other noise throughout the track. Here we go, have a listen. Okay, it's a sort of hissing noise, and you can see the level there bouncing around. Somewhat unusually, I don't know why the microphone didn't pick up that irritating person who was cutting down some trees in the distance. Anyway, I think I've just been lucky. So anyway, how do we go about removing this? Well, with that section highlighted, remember this is the part of the audio file that we want Audition to analyze and understand that this is noise within the file. So with it highlighted, if I come up to Effects, I can roll down here now, and you'll see this section, Noise Reduction, Restoration. Well, my first step is to roll across to the right and choose that option there, Capture Noise Print. Okay, done. Now that's saved within Audition. So now if I do the same thing, back up here and then down to Noise Reduction / Restoration once more, and then fly out again, this time drop down to the second option, Noise Reduction, and as you can see this opens up this dialog. Now, even though I've just captured the noise print, if I wanted to recapture it, or from a different place entirely, well, make sure it's selected. I'll use the same section and just simply click on here, Capture Noise Print. Consequently we now see this graphical display of what Audition now understands to be the noise floor. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this here. What I would suggest is just try it out as the default and then hit apply. Perhaps we'll go into more detail on this in a future course, but for the moment I will hit apply. And as soon as I do, well, you can see the immediate effect there. That noisy area at the end has pretty much now been silenced. That low level movement up and down is now pretty much a straight line. Okay, now of course I don't simply want to remove the end section. I want to use this captured noise print and apply it right across the file. So I'll just undo that, and then I'll open up the noise reduction dialog once more. Now I need to deselect because I don't want this to apply just to the end once again. I want it to apply right across the file. So by deselecting, this means now, as soon as I hit apply, then Audition removes that noise print from right across the file. So all that background noise will have been removed. Let's have a listen. Here we go. It hadn't snowed in December for decades. The last time was before the 2017 English Civil War. Tonight, however, as light faded fast, a monochrome Manchester sky was heavy with thousands of independent flakes falling in swirling silent circles that formed a unified white blanket that smothered all below. Okay, sounds a lot better. All that background noise now has been removed. So I think my next stage would be to go through the file and delete any unnecessary pauses. So right at the beginning here, for example, well, I don't need this dead air and in fact a couple of clicks. So I'll select it all and simply hit delete on my keyboard, and Audition removes that small area from the beginning of our file. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way through this file, and because the reading, to be fair, wasn't all that great, there were some pauses in there that were perhaps a little bit too long. Well, I'm going to work my way through this file and remove any dead air so that the reading is much more smooth. So just bear with me, here we go. In swirling silent circles that sky was heavy with thousands of independent flakes falling in swirling silent circles that formed a unified white blanket that smothered swirling silent circles that formed a unified white blanket that smothered silent circles that formed a unified white blanket that smothered all below. Okay, we seem to be getting there. It now sounds like a better reading. And in fact, seeing as I've got this empty air at the end, I'll delete this too. Now I've edited out any silences manually, but there is another function within Audition that allows you to do this automatically. Let me just show you. First of all though, I need to artificially add in some silence. So I'll come up here, up to Edit, down to Insert, and then Silence. And what I'm doing is I'm adding in complete silence for 2 seconds. Okay, there it is. Now the function I'm looking for resides within the Diagnostics tab down here. And if you go to this effect field, you can see it's set to delete silence at the moment. If you click to reveal, you'll see there are a further 3 options. You can either run a declicker, a declipper, or you can mark the audio. Well, I want the delete silence function because I want Audition to work its way through the file, and using parameters that I dictate, I want it to find areas of silence and remove them for me, so that I don't have to go through the whole of the file deleting manually. Now you do need to make sure that this option down here, where it says Fix By, this needs to be set to shortening silence, not deleting silence. And then to the right, you set in milliseconds what you want the resulting silent areas to last for. Well, I'm going to leave it at 500 milliseconds, half a second, so Audition will work its way through and find any long silences, and any silences over 500 milliseconds, Audition will reduce them so that they don't last longer than this half second. Okay, now first of all, I need to click on here to find the levels so that Audition knows what's the audio and what's the silence. And then once it's been detected, simply click on Scan to determine where those silent areas are. And there we go, there are a few places. So if I just click on here, delete all, any periods of silence now that lasted over half a second have now been reduced to 500 milliseconds, half a second. Let's have one final listen. Now, just before I start playback, just out of habit, I want to see the waveform, which is what we see at the moment, but I also want to see a spectrum display, so that I can not only listen for any clicks or pops in the background, but I can see them too. Anyway, let's have a quick listen. Let's see how much more smoothly this reads back to us. Here we go. It hadn't snowed in December for decades. The last time was before the 2017 English Civil War. Tonight, however, as light faded fast, a monochrome Manchester sky was heavy with thousands of independent flakes falling in swirling silent circles that formed a unified white blanket that smothered all below. Okay, that does sound a lot better, although there are a few things we can also do in terms of de-essing and removing any clicks, etc., etc. But we'll leave that until the next tutorial.